Okay, welcome back to the second hour here on Wrestling Observer Live. We're here every Sunday night for 2 hours from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Time. We will be on next Sunday night. And RODDY PIPER is going to be on the show in hopefully about 10 minutes. You can call us up, by the way, at 1-800-878-PLAY. We actually have a couple of lines open right now. And we're going to head to New Brunswick, New Jersey, and talk to Scott. Scott, what's up?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Going really good.
I want to talk about the awards this year.
Okay.
I'm having a hard time finishing my ballot.
God,
in the club. No clear winner.
For Wrestler of the Year, it's just so hard.
I know. Well, one guy that I want to talk about that is one of the many candidates that's not that great, but is kind of being overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
How about The Rock?
He's getting
a pretty good case for him.
The thing with The Rock, which of course kills him, is that he wasn't around much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but aside from that, you can make a case for him for sure.
Because he started like last year when the award period started in December.
Right. And he had
Jericho.
He had the great match with Jericho.
He had two good matches at Vengeance and at the Royal Rumble.
Right.
With Jericho.
Yeah.
And then, well, I know you're calling it the Lou Thesz Ric Flair Award, and one thing that always made Flair so great is that he would put over new guys, and Rock is the only guy who he was putting over Jericho every time they faced each other.
Yeah, he made Jericho's career, and then everyone else botched it after Rock left.
Right.
And he made Brock Lesnar.
He made Brock Lesnar. He even tapped
and even made Hogan.
SmackDown.
What? He tapped for Angle. That's right.
And for Angle, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, he did. Yeah, you could make a hell of a case for.
He had the two biggest drawing matches probably this year in WWE with Hogan and with.
Not probably. Whoa, no, actually, the second biggest would be Rumble, and the biggest obviously was the Hogan match.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the third biggest would be the Lesnar match, I think.
Which was during a terrible period. Everything else before and after that was...
That's right. It did way better than everything else.
And then all of a sudden they promoted this match so well, and then just botched everything afterwards. But
from the very next TV, when the day after, when was it Brock says, they made Brock leave and be exclusive to SmackDown, and then they handed Hunter the title the next week after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean they finally had that was the first time they finally had the champion over, and with a great build to a title match and a title win, and then they botched up in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Rock left, and things went bad. No, I think if Rock was around more, he probably would have won this year. The fact that he wasn't around that much, is one of the reasons why it's a wide open race.
I mean, other than The Rock, the other candidates are all pretty bad. I mean, Angle is good on the fact that he had great matches all year, but he wasn't in the top drawing position.
No, and he only had one pay-per-view main event all year. Well, actually two, if you include that one. That was in December, but he had the one, and that was only a three-way where he was thrown in to do the job. It wasn't even like that. He wasn't really even scheduled for that main event. Yeah, I mean, until the very end. So yeah, Angle's a great candidate except for that one fact. I mean, I'm kind of thinking very strongly of Angle, but the thing is that you're talking about like the guy who's on top carrying the company, and he certainly was not that.
And there aren't even any good candidates in Japan either, except Bob Sapp. I don't quite think Bob Sapp deserves Wrestler of the Year. Not this year, at least.
One thing, since we're talking a lot about Wrestler of the Year tonight, and you talked about, what would be the impact if Bob Sapp wasn't around to the various promotions and, how valuable he was, and certainly there's certainly a case to be made for that. But think about this. And even though it was only really in the last 5 months of the year where he was really, what I would say an effective, important performer. But if you had taken Brock Lesnar, if there was no Brock Lesnar this year, okay, in WWE, do you realize how bad things really would have been this year? Because the only thing from the summer on that they had to focus on without regurgitating, Hunter against Undertaker, over and over and over again, was the fact that, somebody came up with the idea that Brock Lesnar had to get over, and they botched it a little bit, but eventually they did get him over.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually wonder really how over he is, because it's not like he's really turned SmackDown around. I mean, they've stayed steady, and they've stayed steady because they've been a better show than Raw, and Raw has tanked. So, I mean, I would maybe see it if they put him on Raw instead, and he'd really help, salvage that show. But he was on SmackDown, which is, done fine, and it probably would have done fine without him.
I don't think it would have any focus.
Well, maybe not, but
because if it wasn't for building the show's main programs around Brock Lesnar, and he wasn't around, they would be building everything around Undertaker and probably, without Brock Lesnar, probably someone like a Kane.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I almost look at it as, I think that they sort of, well, maybe not, because when Undertaker comes back, he'll probably be pushed in. But, you know,
but think about it.
They would have made somebody else, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, Big Show. We've seen that.
Yeah. I just don't think that really Brock has done so much to turn it around or to keep it.
Well, he hasn't done. He's done nothing to turn it around, but I just think that it would be in far worse shape had he not been there.
Yeah, but we don't really know for sure because he's there. Whereas with Bob Sapp, we know that, look at what he did for the Pride show in August, look what he did for the K1s, look what he did for Wrestle One, look what he did for the Tokyo Dome.
Well, there's no doubt the K1. I mean, that last show, I mean, that was Bob Sapp and Ernesto Hoost. So yeah, there's no question about that. Let's go to Pete in Sudbury, Ontario. Pete, what's going on?
Hi, Dave. I have a question.
Yes.
I was just wondering, keep hearing rumors that you have rectal warts. Is this true?
God, that was pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah.
All the time on hold for that one.
I know, unbelievable. Anyway, let's, as far as the SmackDown show, what were your thoughts as far as putting Kurt Angle with Paul Heyman?
When I saw it, and Paul Heyman came out and started cutting his promo, the big promo to try and explain everything, I really wanted to believe what he was saying and drink his Kool-Aid, as they say, but I didn't. To me, it was like, this really does not make a whole lot of sense here. But I guess it's good. I think it's good that Angle has a real hated heel manager to get some heat, so he's not so much just a comedy guy. But as far as like the storyline, I think that it was not Paul Heyman's greatest accomplishment.
It was tough, when you watch that and remember how things were a week earlier, and then you try to make it all, okay, he hates Brock Lesnar, so he gets Brock Lesnar unsuspended so he could screw him, but now Brock Lesnar's back in the game and he can beat up his guys.
Yeah. Plus the whole thing where Heyman's cutting a promo to Big Show and Angle, and he's going, listen, you two, it doesn't matter which one of you has a title as long as Brock doesn't have it. And they're both cool with that, like, hey, you're right. I don't care if I lose to this guy as long as Brock doesn't have it. It's like, why would they care if Brock doesn't have it? They should both want it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, one of the things that they did was, the idea was to establish, Angle against Big Show, they can wrestle each other, and it doesn't matter who wins, Paul's got both sides covered.
Yeah.
So that's
But to have both of those guys believe that it was okay to not have the belt, that was pushing it for me.
Yeah.
Like, Angle's not going to care if he loses to Big Show. He's going to be happy. No.
You heard anything about Tank Abbott?
No, nothing.
Okay, well, he's going to be on the next UFC, and they're looking at, I guess the idea, he was supposed to fight was Conan Silveira, and then Conan Silveira went.
That he was not fighting for 4 years and then retired.
No, Conan Silveira got knocked out in a show in Fort Lauderdale over the weekend.
Uh-oh.
So now they feel that he shouldn't be in there.
They need to get a name because what is it? Tim Sylvia against Rico.
Yeah, that
will sell exactly 0 tickets.
Yeah, I know.
And that's not good.
Well, I mean, the whole thing, I think they're going to build it around Matt Lindland and Phil Baroni.
Yeah. Which may work, but that's, okay, it's going to work for the hardcores on the underground that read what they say about each other. But what about my friends? Yeah. I really, it's weird, but I look at my friends to see what they care about. Because they're into it enough that certain things will make them care. Like, they were so excited about Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz, and look at the buy rate.
Yeah.
And they were so excited about SummerSlam, and look at how that did compared to everything else. But when they don't care about something, I know that it's sometimes and often not going to do very well, and they don't care about Matt Lindland.
Yeah, I bet you they didn't care about the last pay-per-view in WWE.
No, they didn't care.
Yeah, I think most people didn't.
So
the next one people care about because of that. I thought the Helmsley Scott Steiner thing was tremendous.
It was. I thought it was really great, and
unfortunately, it's going to lead to a match.
Yes, it will.
Wow, that was. I don't know. Hunter's become like Shane Douglas.
The most fragile man in wrestling.
Well, it's just he's got to this point where every time he has a good match, he's breaking something. It seems like.
Yeah, and I wrote something in that NWA thing about how in the old days everybody talked about how you had to get in the business when you're 18, and nowadays your TV life is something totally different, where you can be 21, and if you've been on TV for 3 straight years every single week, you're old. But somebody called me and they said, you don't understand it. The thing is, in the old days, they want you in young because that's when you were at your peak. And if you start somebody when they're 35, they're going to be breaking down in 2 years. And that's the thing with Hunter right now, where he's not 35 yet, but he is just, he's so big, and everything he does, he's breaking down. One quad tore, he just tore the other quad, not as bad, but, and he's got all these problems, and what can you do? When you start falling apart, you fall apart.
I don't think it's so much age as much as the number of years you've been in the business. Because it was like, when Davey Boy Smith started really falling apart, he was like 35 years old, but it was because he'd been in the business for 20 years. And somebody else like Rico, just as an example, who's 41 years old but has only been in the business 2 or 3 years, I don't know that he's going to fall apart so quick.
Yeah, that's true. But it is harder as you get older.
Oh no, there's no question you're going to get hurt more, and especially now with with the guys on the steroids and the harder style, it's not conducive. Well, it's true. Then again, I guess they were 20 years ago too. But it's not conducive. It's really not conducive to being in your 40s. What do you hear about Lex Luger?
What have I heard about him?
Did you hear from anybody that was on that tour?
Just that he was enormous and,
and an absolute pain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think about it, if your body is built to hold 200 pounds and you've got 300 on it, whether it's 300 pounds of fat or muscle, it's still taking a toll on you. I mean, it's like walking around with a 100-pound backpack on you all day, every single day.
Hello. Bryan is gone. Is Roddy Piper here? No, we got lines like crazy lighting up. Is Roddy there?
Merry Christmas, gentlemen.
Roddy, how are you?
Is this Dave?
This is Dave.
Well, God, the first Dave, I'm not aware. Do you have kids?
Yeah, I do.
How many kids do you have?
I have one kid. I have a baby who's 10 months old.
And how old? Is it he or she?
He's 10 months old.
Oh, man. I bet you your whole life changed, didn't it?
Yes, it did. I didn't expect it to, but in fact it did.
It's unbelievable. I guess we all want a boy first, but when my first little girl, I was the first, Dave, in all my children, I was the very first one to see them come into to life. And I wanted a boy, and when I got that baby girl, I wouldn't have traded her for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about the time of my life when I said, what is it? You need a license to hunt, you at least need a license to fish, but any jerk can have a kid, but it takes a man to be a father.
Yeah.
And listen, would you, just before we start this, you give that little boy a big hug and kiss from Uncle Rod, would you?
Okay, I will.
It's Christmas time, man. Okay, so now, I just forgot the Christmas present. That first commercial with growing hair back, if we could get that to Hogan real quick, I would be more than happy to give him that as a Christmas gift. So, David.
Yes.
David, let's straighten this whole department out. I would like to say something, if I may, very quickly.
Sure.
That, I heard that. I've heard all the allegations of between me being punch drunk to what else the gambit is and what I think of this and that. And, David, I want you to know right on the air right now that I have no misconceptions or conceptions about you. I am not a judge. I'm not qualified to be a judge. And every time I point a finger at somebody, I'm pointing 3 back at myself. So we've had a difference of opinion on business issues, but you were kind enough to leave my family out of it, in which I requested. And for that, I thank you very much. Your show, I sincerely don't, if it's all right with you, don't screen any calls whatsoever, because, sir, I'm the kind of guy that Don Morocco taught me this. You leave your life an open book and nobody can ever bribe you. And I would be more than happy to answer any questions of anybody. But I want you to know, Dave, I don't have any kind of vendetta. I'm the kind of guy, you slap me in the face, you are going to get a reaction. As the honky-tonk man has come on, I suppose. But I want you to know, Dave, that I wish you nothing but the best in life and nothing but quality of life, and all the folks, not just you, all the folks. Sometimes, that's all. The rest is your form, sir.
Okay. Since you were on the show, you went to NWA TNA, you did the thing, and with Vince Russo, and I mean, here we are now, a couple of weeks afterwards. What are your thoughts about that night?
Very good question. I want to be quick so I can get it to everything. Okay, there's a thing called the XWF coming up. So this XWF league goes and they say, okay, you got a year's contract, and they uproot a lot of people. Okay, all these people come to Tampa. Some people sell their house, some people bring their families, depending on the person. I was in the room as the 4 months had gone by. There was this one gentleman, about 38 years old. He was going, geez, you know, these guys are driving me crazy. He was booking the venues.
It's Mike Lima.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Excuse me. Yes, Mike Lima. And he even actually said, he said, gee, I'm going to have a heart attack. These guys, and they wouldn't give him no national press, but they were pushing him on the venue. So I sat there and watched as these people came in and put a one sheet in front of, this is a guesstimation, 10, 12 people, and said this: if you all sign it, we will give you 2 weeks' pay and we're dissolving the company. If you all do not sign it, we will give you nothing. The last man to hold out was Mike Lima. He's dead. He died of a heart attack at 38 and left 4 children. My point being this, sir, if I went into the ring, whether people, you know, this word work, unfortunately it's in the wrong text, but I don't want to get into that. Owen, let's put it, you know, for me, the best defense is absolutely none, because I've done nothing wrong. But I ask all the fans right now this: if I had got into the ring and said to Russo, you killed Mike Lima, didn't you? You know what? Nobody would have said a word. However, what is the difference between the flesh and blood of Owen Hart, who I've gone up to Calgary and held Brett's kids and since he had a stroke, and Owen's kids, and came back down, but literally, what is the difference between Mike Lima and Owen Hart? If I had said Mike Lima, hey, you, with the same gusto, people wouldn't have moved an inch, would they, Dave?
You know, I think
that's an answer to the fans, I guess. A question, pardon me, sir, to the fans.
Okay.
And so the thing with when I got there, I'm going to say it exactly as I am. I went, I saw the tape, I phoned. I have a reputation enough that they would take my word for what I was going to do, and I said that if you let Russo kill this last, I guess if you want to call it old school. I'm not looking for old school. I'm looking for something in between. And this is the last place for a lot of guys that have been put out of work by a lot of different people. And Hogan talked to me Saturday night. I seen what Russo's been doing, and all of a sudden, Dave, just look at this. All of a sudden, for a month and a half, my bus was going to be dropped off in Nashville. You could have followed it on RODDY.PIPER.com, man. And then here I am in Nashville. Somebody gives me a tape, and the tape says, Russo, I dare anybody to try to stop me. Well, you know, I'm me. And I phoned up and I said, listen, I just want 5 minutes in the opening. They drove me in an ATV. I talked to only 2 gentlemen, and I stayed in the ATV, and then they said to me, do you want me to hit your music? Because my tour manager, David Penzer, had my music. And I said, you know what the heck, I'm not trying to fool anybody. Hit the music. And here we come. Now, I understand somebody said it was for the big pop. Well, folks must understand, you know, brother, after 93,000 people, there's no such thing as a big pop. So that had nothing to do with what I was trying to do. I was legitimately going into the ring, and maybe, you know, I'm not a book smart guy, and maybe my articulation isn't perfect. My bottom line was, we need to come up with a whole new millennium of wrestlers, young wrestlers, and people like me, Hogan, Flair, and everything, need to put their stamp on them and guide them and carry the business on and pass the torch. And yes, we're finished, but we need to take care of it, because of this necrophilia that's going on, it's going to die. And I went in the ring. Russo came from nowhere. I didn't know what was going on, so I got nose to nose with him. A couple of questions. Finally, he said to me, he says, you're a moron, you know. Well, maybe he's right, but in any case, I slapped him right upside his head. He didn't move an inch. The Harris brothers come in. As the Harris brothers are coming in, I figure, oh, here we go. And one of the kids says, hey, Mr. Piper, how you doing? He was just trying to tell me, hey, we were just sent down. Now, all of a sudden, Vince Russo is doing this big fight segment with these 300-pound boys, and, oh, I want it. And so now I see, David, you got to understand that now I see he is really angry, this Vince Russo. I've never been in the ring with him, and he wants the mic. Piper's Pit 101. Never give the mic away. What he wanted to do was snatch the mic, say something, run out of the ring with the mic, and leave egg on my face. No. If you want to say it now. I'm 2 inches from your nose. And then when you're struggling to try to get me, I said, let him go. I said during the interview, I sent you a tape. I call it the ghost tape for lack of a better word. And it's up right now. To try to save the institution of the WCW. It's not a tape of a magic wand, but it's definitely would have pointed in the right direction. And that's, sir, exactly what happened. And I'll take any questions you want to take.
Okay, now, are you going to go, do you have any plans to go back to NWA TNA?
No, sir.
Okay.
None whatsoever.
I mean, is there any, I mean, what were your thoughts? Okay, you were out there, given whatever, 5 minutes of time to say whatever you wanted to say, and then, Russo shows up. I mean, did you kind of think?
Yes, of course. You know what I thought? I thought, okay, I've been set up.
Yeah.
Exactly. And when the Harris brothers came, I figured, okay, it's on. Because I had backed Russo into such a corner. But, they're young kids, and I'm not saying, listen, brother, they could have spiked me like a 10-penny nail. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying they were kind enough and respectful enough to come by and just say, how you doing, Mr. Piper? And that was telling me that hey, man, we're not in on anything. We just were told to come down here. That's what that signal was.
Mm-hmm.
So, was there any setup on the part of the organization? I don't believe from the 2 people I told. However, I do know this, and I've never said this yet. I do know that Vince Russo did know I was going to be in the building that night.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only thing that I have not said that is laid out. But to do an angle as put in the text that we're doing now, and to read some literature from the Observer, that if it wasn't an angle, it was even not a smart thing to do. Again, I come back to you. I'm trying to get all the wrestlers back on track. No, excuse me, sir. All the promotions back, at least one other promotion out there, because if we have a guy with a monopoly, all these guys are busting their bodies for nothing, and I'm tired of all my buddies dying.
Okay.
And I come from that place, whether people want to believe it or not, sir.
Here's a situation.
Yes, sir.
There's, aside from WWE, there's basically one company with some national coverage, which is the TNA group that you appeared for with the national pay-per-view.
Yes.
And you want to straighten out wrestling, but one of the guys involved with this company is Russo, who, had something to do, as others did as well, with the demise of WCW, and whose ideas of wrestling are probably about, I would guess, very different than yours.
White and black.
Like 180-degree different, probably.
Yes, sir. For sure.
So what? I mean, the thing is by going there, in a sense, by being there, you kind of gave him the rub, as a lot of guys are doing. Because their whole idea of this angle that they are trying to do is to get a lot of the older wrestlers there to say, Vince Russo, you're ruining wrestling, to make him a heel to wrestling fans. Whether that's a smart idea or not,
that's very astute.
Time will tell. But that's that's what they want, whether it be Dusty Rhodes or Terry Funk.
I know what happened to me is, David, I got caught up in the moment. I was on a 30-day bus run, and there it was, and I got on a roll, and boom, and boom, and the feelings were for, he jerked around Hogan, he jerked around Flair, he jerked around a lot of top, Ric Flair is the ultimate of all time, and Hogan right up there, and they outranked me by millions, and I was almost kind of venting for it. I even said to him, you're not a pimple on Hogan. I'll just say bum. You're not a pimple on Hogan's bum. You know, it just came out. And if you look at the interview, and I guess I was kind of doing a little venting, to be quite honest with you, man. Go ahead, please.
Now, one of the things when you were on tour, and Dave Penzer actually told me this, and you were meeting, you probably met more fans in a sense in that month than
Than I do, yeah.
And then your whole career, because you were really meeting people one on one. And he said that one of the things was there was a feeling among the fans they wanted to be fans, but they weren't fans anymore.
The feeling was, and again, if I may, being on the 30-day run, I did 102 press, TV, radio, and media, and I did 30 towns in 25 days, and here I am, I'm in Nashville. I've been on the road, and I just, boom, this jerk is, and I went for it. People, it's just very frustrating for me to have people think that I would just go and do something for ratings or for me. It makes me feel like the folks out there, I tell you exactly, man, I can't be more honest than this. I feel that everybody's looking at me like just, oh, he's a washed-up old wrestler, and there's young guys to come, and I would say that would be right across the board. But all of a sudden, the guy comes out with a book, and it's in its 7th printing of 10,000, and he's got a movie in because I'm not in the ring, I'm not dead. On the other hand, it's got enough attention for me that I have been asked to come back. And I don't know, I'm toying with it. I'm not teasing nobody or anything. I'm just toying with the fact that maybe you folks have forgot. I'm not, hey, no brag, just fact, but I will get your attention in the ring.
Okay, now, in your book, one of the questions that a lot of people have is, you actually, the book covers the early part of your career very well. I mean, I think that people who are interested in the California years and the Oregon years probably got even more than they expected, and the Crockett years in the early, and the McMahon run, but there was almost nothing from the WCW period.
No, I had a very, very hard time with Penguin Putnam. They edited stories sometimes just because they didn't like it, and it made the book kind of jump. This made things very, very difficult because the thought tracks, I need those extra thought tracks in, and I don't know what they were doing, but in the editing process, it lost a little translation, and that's where I'm having all these problems, man.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that when we opened up for questions, that we got a lot of questions. Of all the periods of your career, and I'm not sure why this is, we've got more questions about the Oregon years than the WWE years. Of course, that's national and everyone saw it.
Sure.
But the Carolina years, where you really became a national star.
Yes, sir.
But I don't know if it's because of the time or whatever it was. But a lot of people were like, who are your favorite guys? Who are your favorite guys to work with in Oregon? It was always,
sure.
The Portland, Portland wrestling. And you ended up in Portland and living there. Which very few of the national stars ended up living in Portland. And
they have brains. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but when you look back on your career in the ring, would the Portland years your most fun years, or would you say the WrestleMania years were the most fun years?
That's a really good question. And I think I'm going to clean a whole bunch of stuff up and bring you right up to date. I've heard controversy with a fellow named Tony Condello.
Yes.
And controversy of who started me, when, how, and why. I understand Tony Condello. I saw it. He said that he was my first match in 1973. I was 16 years old, and he had his first match with me. And he's got the card to prove it, and it says Rod Piper. Well, that's very interesting. So I'm 16 years old, and he said that the reason that I don't give him credit, although I put his name in my book, is that I challenged him once in the ring, and he beat me up. Then I challenged him 2 times on the street, and he beat me up. Now, let's see. Let's just, all of us is real human. It's Christmas and really honest. let's just think about this. You got at that time he was about 33, 34. She got a 34-year-old man beating up a 16-year-old kid that has enough guts to come back 2 more times. Hey, I think that's pretty damn good. Mm-hmm. You know, I've been knocked down in front of millions. So Tony Condello himself admits that I was 16 years old. Unfortunately, he says 1973, and the math doesn't work. Now, in 1973, folks, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people saw me from Los Angeles. So, bottom line is, I don't really understand, and maybe you can help me with this as I'm asking questions, is on RODDYPiper.com, I put up something that was made by a gentleman of the kind of things they used to do to you on the road. And what I don't understand is somebody says they got a yearbook with my picture in it. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that Tony Condello has got that poster. I don't doubt any of it. But the fact of the matter was, you know, I worked in New Brunswick 2 different seasons, which means New Brunswick at that time you could only work in the summertime. I worked for Emil Dupree, then I worked for Rudy Kay, and then I worked the only time they ever tried to run it all year round. I was in a trailer with a wolf, and the snow got so deep we couldn't run it, and I got out of there. I was in Quebec, celebrity wrestling, with maybe Steve Ricard and Paul Vachon. This is when they were going against the other wrestling, you know, and then I was back to Winnipeg. Then I was in Kansas City, talking back Kansas City. My point is this. You know, I don't understand what everybody's so bent up about. It's simple as this. I started wrestling, and this is the way I started. I say in the book, right from the beginning, I tried to go to school as hard as I could. I wanted to be somebody. Instead, I turned out to be just another fighter. But my kids will be somebody. So that's how I feel about it. People are nitpicking when this is just it's not an encyclopedia on wrestling. It was just a book to put out to kind of show what happens to the boys, and this is what it really is. We have Father Jason Sanderson with 44 acres. Can't we all stand up and do something for ourselves? There was no more ulterior motive than that, other than, obviously, it is an economical business adventure, and I want to make money off it to feed my family. Yes. That being said, there's no ulterior motive.
Hey, let's go to Sam in Herndon, Virginia. Sam, what's going on?
Hey, guys, what's going on? Hello?
Hello.
Hey, first off, I want to wish both of you guys a happy holidays.
Thank you very much.
And this is I'm starstruck. I'm there with Roddy.
You're not supposed to say that.
Man. No, man. I'll tell you, my little girl, when she comes in and borrows money when I'm on the potty, is not starstruck at all. You just come on and say what you need to say, bud.
Listen, I've been a great fan of Roddy Piper ever since I was a kid. I remember watching him on even Saturday Night's Main Event when he was fighting Haku, and I remember all his great matches, and when he comes to local areas and fight Rick Rude in the cage, and you were the greatest entertainer ever in the history of wrestling, and I just wanted to thank you for all you've done for our sport. And
well, sir, thank you very much, and I wish you a Merry Christmas for you and your family, and you know, though, I owe you. You gave me a family, man, all of you. I was just a piece of garbage on the street. And you guys stood behind me. Whether you liked me or disliked me, at least you kept me in the limelight. And so I thank you for the beautiful family I'm going to have Christmas with.
Thank you very much. And like I said, you were the most entertaining wrestler. I mean, I know anytime Roddy Piper was on the card, you were going to have your money's worth. You cut the best promos. You could fight a jobber and make him look good. I would remember watching you on Superstars, and you'd fight someone like Tom Stone. This day and age, you could make a jobber match entertaining, and I think you're right about a lot of the points that you make now that's going on in wrestling as far as the business has gotten dirty. I mean, you got Rikishi shoving his rear end.
And you know, the thing is, with Mr. Meltzer, with all these other gentlemen that have the internet journalism going on, it's going to kill their business. It's going to kill my business and your entertainment.
Right.
And my problem is,
my problem,
don't
too.
know why we can't all get together.
Exactly, and I'm glad that you're behind other wrestling promotions and other startups, and wrestling cannot be a monopoly and survive. It just can't.
Not in the long run. You're right, because they got to develop talent somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And programs like Tough Enough are great because they're building up viewer interest.
Yeah, they're interesting, but it's the guys that have been around. That a guy told me one time, plant your feet on the ground and fight. You'll start making money. Now that doesn't apply to everyone, but the wrestlers of today are terrific athletes. The only problem is only one mouth is moving 27.
Exactly.
Not allowed to exploit their own talents in their own ways, and that's what makes it interesting for all of us.
Well, I just want to thank you for all the years
Well, God bless you.
The tape that Roddy Piper sent to WCW about a year or so before they actually went under. He's actually going to. No, what is this? You're playing it on your internet, or?
Hey, listen, man, get this. I just got to think. You're not even going to believe this because I don't. Do you know how many hits we've got today? Just go ahead, boys, take a guess.
I can't. I actually was told, so I can't make a guess because the number's so ridiculous that
it's ridiculous. Listen to this: 8,300,000 hits today.
Okay.
But now, Dave, tell me something. That tells me that people are crying for.
I'm crying sometimes when I watch Monday.
Pardon?
Sometimes I'm crying on Monday.
I know, because there's nothing there. I've been there so many times.
Yeah.
But if they're crying for an alternative, and if we could give them one, it would keep us all, send all our babies to college. And what I did, there used to be a thing where the WCW and WWF and the actual wrestlers would be going, oh, that league, and they're like, wait a second, you idiots. That's promoter against promoter. We're all independent contractors because we're forced to be. So I just would think it would be a really cool thing if we could get another league up, not old school, not sports entertainment, someplace in the middle with a whole bunch of young guys and keep it American institution. And I think, Dave, that you're probably thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Brian, any questions that you've been getting?
Yeah, actually the most asked email question we've gotten today.
My shoes. Oh, no, go ahead.
No. Regarding Bad News Allen and his comments on this show about the blackface, and he was very unhappy about that. So
okay.
A lot of people want to know your
how
thoughts
much
on
time
that.
do I have so I know how fast I got it?
90 seconds.
90 seconds. Here we go. Okay, so all of a sudden I'm pulled into a room. There's Bad News Brown, Vince McMahon, Pat Patterson. They're sitting down. I could cut the air with a knife. I sat down. Vince wants me to wrestle Bad News Brown. I'm looking at him. He's a judo champion, or rather Olympic in the Olympics. A lot of respect for him for going to the Olympics, any man. So finally I look and I, sure, and I'm looking. I'm trying to think. At that time, Mandela was having troubles, and Cyndi Lauper was singing True Colors. So I just, nobody's saying nothing. So I says, I'm going to paint myself half black. McMahon looked at me and says, literally, I love you. Bad News Brown never said a word. Bottom line, we got to Toronto, half black, made a special chemical. Put it on me. I went out. I did a Michael Jackson. Nobody knew what I was doing. Out of my mind. Got in there and got a kind of a lackluster match. Came back, showered. When I came back, they had dumped the solution out Andre and Arnold's skull, and as she was trying to take it off, started scraping my skin. Bottom line is, I went from Toronto through Chicago to Portland with a full-size Mickey Mouse under my right arm, a Halliburton in my left arm, and my face and body painted half black because it took me 3 weeks in the sauna.